I've been hesitant to cover stalker stories because they read the most realistic type of horror we feature. These aren't ghosts or unexplained phenomena. These are real people who became dangerous obsessions. But these 3 submissions were too important to ignore, and they might just save someone's life. Stalking is a crime that strips away your sense of safety in the most personal way possible. It's not just about being followed. It's about someone learning your routines, invading your privacy, and convincing themselves they have a right to control your life. The psychological toll is devastating, and the threat is always real. Tonight's 3 stories come from people who experienced this nightmare firsthand. Their stories contain important lessons about recognizing warning signs, documenting evidence, and taking action before situations escalate. If you or someone you know is being stalked, please reach out to local authorities or the National Stalking Resource Center. These stories are difficult to hear, but they're important to share. This story comes from Olivia, a 27-year-old barista who worked at a popular coffee shop in Denver, Colorado. She learned that friendly customer service can sometimes be misinterpreted as personal interest, with terrifying consequences. I'd been working at Mountain Brew Coffee for about 8 months when he first came in. I'll call him Jay, because I still don't like saying his real name. Jay was probably in his mid-30s, always wore business casual clothes, and seemed like a normal customer. He'd come in around 7:30 a.m. on weekdays, order a large black coffee, and sometimes a breakfast sandwich. He was polite, tipped well, and made small talk about the weather or local news. This went on for about 3 weeks, and I thought nothing of it. I'm a friendly person. It's literally my job to be pleasant to customers. I'd smile, remember his usual order, ask how his day was going. Basic customer service stuff that I did for dozens of regular customers. But Jay started to interpret my friendliness as something more. It started subtly. He began asking more personal questions. Do you go to school? What do you do for fun? Do you have any pets? At first, these seemed like normal small talk, so I answered them without thinking much about it. Then he started timing his visits to coincide with my shifts. I worked Tuesday through Saturday, opening shifts from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. Jay, who'd previously only come in on weekdays, suddenly started showing up on Saturdays too, always during my shift, never when other baristas were working. He began lingering longer after getting his coffee, sitting at a table near the counter where he could watch me work. He'd nurse his coffee for an hour or more, occasionally making eye contact and smiling. My coworker Maya noticed first. That guy's been staring at you for like 40 minutes, she whispered while we were restocking cups. It's kind of creepy. I looked over, and sure enough, Jay was watching me, not even pretending to be on his phone or reading something. When our eyes met, he waved. I didn't wave back, and I could see his smile falter. The next day, he left a note with his coffee cup. It said, I really enjoy our morning conversations. Would you want to grab dinner sometime? Jay, with his phone number written below. I felt uncomfortable, but tried to handle it professionally. The next time he came in, I politely declined, explaining that I had a policy about not dating customers and that I was seeing someone. I wasn't, but it seemed like the easiest way to discourage him. His face hardened. You seemed interested, he said flatly. You always smiled at me. You remembered my order. You asked about my day. I'm friendly with all our regular customers, I explained gently. It's just good customer service, not personal interest. He left without responding, and I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. 2 days later, Jay came back, acting like the uncomfortable conversation had never happened. He ordered his usual coffee, made casual small talk, and left. But as I was cleaning his table after he left, I found another note. I know you have to say you're dating someone because of your job. I understand. I can wait. That's when I started to get genuinely worried. Over the next few weeks, things escalated quickly. Jay started showing up at the coffee shop, even when I wasn't working, asking other baristas when I'd be back. He began arriving before my shift started and staying after it ended, watching me through the window as I left. One day, I took a different route home than usual, and I saw his car following me. When I turned into a grocery store parking lot to see if I was imagining things, he turned in too. When I drove back toward the coffee shop instead of going home, he followed me there as well. I was terrified. I called my manager from my car and explained the situation. She told me to drive to the police station, which I did. Jay followed me all the way there and only drove away when I pulled into the station parking lot. I filed a police report that day, detailing everything: the notes, the following, the constant watching. The officer was sympathetic, but explained that until Jay made an actual threat or violated a restraining order, there wasn't much they could do beyond documenting the behavior. I applied for a restraining order anyway, which required Jay to stay at least 100 yards away from me, my home, and my workplace. When he was served with the order, things got worse. He started leaving flowers on my car windshield, always when I wasn't looking, always with unsigned notes. "I'm not trying to scare you. I just want to talk. You're making this harder than it needs to be." He created fake social media accounts to send me messages, getting around the blocks I'd placed on his real accounts. The messages ranged from romantic declarations to angry accusations about me, leading him on, and then playing games. My manager banned him from the coffee shop, but that didn't stop him. He'd stand across the street, just barely outside the 100-yard radius, watching the shop through the window. He knew exactly where the legal boundary was and would stand right at that line. I started documenting everything: screenshots of messages, photos of the flowers and notes, times and dates of sightings. My phone became an evidence folder, and my life became a constant state of hypervigilance. The breaking point came 3 months into this nightmare. I was leaving work, checking my surroundings like I'd learned to do, when Jay stepped out from between two parked cars, directly into my path. "We need to talk," he said, blocking my way to my car. I immediately pulled out my phone and started recording. "You're violating the restraining order. I'm calling the police. I just want 5 minutes," he said, moving closer. 5 minutes to explain why you're wrong about me. A delivery driver who was dropping off supplies saw what was happening and intervened, stepping between us and telling Jay to back off. Jay finally left, but not before saying, "This isn't over." That incident, caught on my phone's video, was enough for the police to arrest him for violating the restraining order. He spent 2 nights in jail and was released on bail with strict conditions. That's when things took an unexpected turn. Jay's sister contacted me through a mutual acquaintance. She apologized profusely and explained that Jay had a history of becoming obsessed with women who showed him basic kindness. There had been 2 previous restraining orders from other states, and he'd been in therapy, but had stopped taking his medication. She offered to work with me and the police to get Jay into mandatory treatment and to ensure he stayed away from me. With her cooperation, the prosecutor was able to build a stronger case, and Jay eventually pled guilty to stalking charges. He was sentenced to 3 years of supervised probation, mandatory therapy, continued medication management, and a permanent restraining order. If he violated any of these conditions, he'd face significant jail time. It's been 2 years since then, and I haven't seen Jay in person since that day in the parking lot. But the damage doesn't go away quickly. I still check over my shoulder constantly. I still document my routes home. I still feel my heart rate spike when I see someone who looks vaguely like him. The coffee shop experience that used to bring me joy became a source of anxiety. I eventually left that job and now work in a different field, partly because I couldn't separate the workplace from the trauma of being stalked there. But I learned important lessons that I want to share with anyone listening. Trust your instincts. If someone's attention feels wrong, it probably is. Document everything from the very first incident. Timestamps, screenshots, photos, witness names. Build your evidence folder from day one. Don't try to let them down easy or be polite if you feel unsafe. Your safety matters more than anyone's feelings. Tell people, your employer, friends, family, neighbors. The more people who know what's happening, the safer you are. Contact the police early, even if they say there's nothing they can do yet. Creating a paper trail is crucial. And to anyone who works in customer service, friendly professionalism is part of the job, but you are not responsible for how customers interpret your kindness. If someone misunderstands, that's their problem, not yours. Jay's obsession with me wasn't about who I actually was as a person. It was about who he imagined I could be, based on nothing more than polite small talk and professional friendliness. That's not love or interest. That's delusion. And when someone is operating from delusion, facts and boundaries don't matter to them. But they need to matter to us. We need to enforce boundaries firmly, document violations thoroughly, and never apologize for protecting ourselves from people who refuse to respect our autonomy. I'm sharing this story not to scare people, but to empower them. Stalking is a serious crime, and victims have rights and resources. If this is happening to you, please reach out for help. You deserve to feel safe, and there are people and systems that can help you reclaim that safety. This story comes from Ethan, a 30-year-old accountant who joined a gym to improve his health. He discovered that working out in public spaces can make you vulnerable to unwanted attention, regardless of your gender. When people think about stalking, they usually imagine a man stalking a woman. But stalking happens to everyone, and my experience proves that male victims face unique challenges in being taken seriously. I joined Gold's Fitness in March of 2023, determined to get back in shape after gaining weight during the pandemic. I went to the gym 4 times a week, usually around 6 p.m. after work. I had a routine, cardio, weights, stretches, and I kept to myself, wearing headphones and focusing on my workout. After about 2 weeks, a woman started working out near me every time I was there. I'll call her A for this story. A was probably in her late 20s, seemed fit and experienced with the equipment. At first, I didn't think much of it. The gym wasn't huge, so seeing the same people regularly was normal. But then she started, accidentally, ending up on the machine next to mine, even when there were plenty of options available. She'd wait for me to move to a new station, then follow shortly after. If I was on the treadmill, she'd suddenly need the treadmill. If I moved to free weights, she'd need to be in that section too. She began making comments. Great form on those squats. You're really putting in the work. At first, I thought she was just being friendly, so I'd say a quick thanks and go back to my workout. Then she started trying to engage in longer conversations. She'd ask about my workout routine, my fitness goals, whether I'd tried certain protein supplements. I'd give short, polite answers while trying to indicate I was there to work out, not socialize. When polite disinterest didn't discourage her, she got more aggressive. She started appearing in other areas of my life. I'd see her at the grocery store near my apartment, at the coffee shop where I worked on my laptop on weekends, at the park where I occasionally jogged. Each time, she'd act surprised to see me. "Oh my God, Ethan, what a coincidence. Do you live around here?" Even though we'd never had a conversation where I told her my name or where I lived. I mentioned it to my buddy Cole at work, and he laughed. "Dude, that's not stalking. She's just into you." Most guys would love that kind of attention, but it didn't feel flattering. It felt violating. I started messaging me on social media, even though I'd never given her my last name or any way to find me online. She must have gotten my information from somewhere. Maybe she looked at my gym membership paperwork, or maybe she'd been following me and figured out my routines well enough to identify me through other means. Her messages started friendly, but quickly became possessive. I saw you talking to that woman at the gym today. Who was she? It was my coworker who also went to the same gym. You didn't respond to my last message. Are you ignoring me? I blocked her on all platforms, but she created new accounts. I stopped responding entirely, which only seemed to escalate her behavior. She started waiting in the parking lot after my workouts, coincidentally, walking to her car at the exact moment I was leaving. She tried to continue conversations, walking alongside me even when I clearly wasn't engaging. One evening, I found a note on my car windshield. You looked really good today. I watched you from the cafe across the street. You should wear that blue shirt more often. That's when I realized she was following me beyond the gym, watching me from locations where I wouldn't notice her. The coincidental encounters weren't coincidental at all. She was tracking my movements and timing her appearances to seem natural. I went to the gym management and explained the situation. They were initially dismissive. The staff member I spoke to actually said, "Well, at least you know someone thinks you're attractive. Could be worse." It took me explaining that I felt unsafe, that this was textbook stalking behavior, and that I'd involve the police if they didn't take action, before they agreed to cancel A's membership and ban her from the facility. For about a week, things were quiet. Then A appeared at my workplace. I work in a secured office building that requires a key card to enter. I somehow got past security by claiming she was there for a meeting with someone in a different company that shared our building. She came to my floor and waited near the elevators until my lunch break, then surprised me as I was leaving. "Ethan, I can't believe you got me banned from the gym. I thought we were friends." "I was just trying to get to know you better." "We're not friends," I said firmly. "I've never encouraged this behavior. You need to stop following me." Her expression changed instantly from hurt to angry. "You're just like every other guy. You led me on, and now you're playing the victim. I saw how you looked at me at the gym. You wanted this." Building security escorted her out, but the encounter left me shaken. For the first time, I considered that A might be more than just obsessive. She might be genuinely unstable. I filed a police report that afternoon. The officer who took my statement was professional, but I could tell he was skeptical. "Has she threatened you or damaged your property?" he asked, not explicitly, but without a direct threat or proof of criminal activity, there's not much we can do. Keep documenting everything, and if she contacts you again, let us know. I left the station feeling frustrated and unheard. Because I'm a man dealing with a female stalker, people seem to think I should be flattered, amused, or able to handle it myself. The idea that I felt genuinely threatened was dismissed as overreacting. But it proved she was a threat a week later. I'd started varying my routine, going to the gym at different times, taking different routes home, avoiding the places I knew she'd look for me. But when I got home from work one evening, I found the lock on my apartment door had been tampered with. Scratch marks around the keyhole suggested someone had tried to pick it or force it. Inside, nothing seemed disturbed, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I checked my bedroom and found one of my drawers slightly open, a drawer where I kept personal items I was certain I'd closed that morning. Then I noticed it. A photo on my nightstand had been moved. Just slightly, but enough that I was sure someone had been in my apartment. I immediately called the police. This time, they took it seriously. Breaking and entering is a crime, regardless of whether anything was stolen. They dusted for fingerprints and found evidence that someone had indeed been inside my apartment. Later that day, it texted me from a new number. "Your apartment is really nice. I especially love your bedroom. The photo of you with your parents is sweet. You look so happy." That message, combined with the evidence of the break-in, was finally enough for the police to act. They arrested A the next day and charged her with stalking, breaking and entering, and harassment. During the investigation, they discovered A had an entire folder on her computer dedicated to me. Photos she'd taken of me at the gym, at coffee shops, walking to my car. Screenshots of all my social media posts going back months. A document detailing my daily routine with times and locations. Even photos taken through my apartment window. She'd been planning this obsession for far longer than I'd realized, documenting my life in disturbing detail. I was ultimately convicted and sentenced to 6 months in jail, followed by 3 years of probation and a permanent restraining order. She was also ordered to undergo mental health treatment. The experience changed me fundamentally. I moved to a different apartment, changed gyms, and became hyper-aware of my surroundings in ways I'd never been before. I also became an advocate for male stalking victims because my experience showed me how dismissive people can be when the victim is a man. Stalking isn't gender-specific. The impact is just as real, just as frightening, and just as worthy of being taken seriously, regardless of who the victim is. If you're being stalked, regardless of your gender, document everything immediately and thoroughly. Tell everyone, friends, family, employers, security staff. Report it to police even if you think they won't take it seriously. Create that paper trail. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't minimize your experience because others dismiss it. And remember, you're not responsible for someone else's obsession. Their behavior is not your fault, and you have every right to feel safe and to take action to protect yourself. Our final story comes from Cassidy, a 29-year-old social media manager who learned that having a public online presence can attract attention. That bleeds into real life in terrifying ways. My job requires me to have an active social media presence. I manage accounts for several clients, and I also maintain my own professional accounts to showcase my work and attract new business. I post regularly about marketing strategies, client success stories, and industry trends. My accounts are public, my real name is visible, and I share enough professional information that potential clients can find and contact me. This is normal in my field. What happened next showed me how dangerous that visibility can become. It started with comments on my posts. A user with the handle @marketingfan223 began leaving thoughtful comments on everything I posted. They'd add insights, ask intelligent questions, and engage with my content in ways that seemed genuinely interested in the industry. After a few weeks of these interactions, @MarketingFan2023 sent me a direct message. I really admire your work. Would you be open to a quick call to discuss some marketing strategies for a project I'm working on? This is how I get a lot of my clients, so I said yes. We scheduled a Zoom call, and that's when I first saw Mem, the person behind the account. Mem appeared to be in their mid-30s, professional-looking, articulate. The call seemed normal. We discussed marketing strategies, target audiences, content calendars. M mentioned they were working on launching a new business and wanted guidance on building their social media presence. At the end of the call, M asked about my rates and said they'd think about hiring me. I sent a follow-up email with my service packages and didn't think much more about it. But M never followed up about hiring me. Instead, they continued engaging with every single thing I posted online. Not just on one platform. They found and followed all my professional accounts across Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok. They'd comment within minutes of any post, always with detailed, thoughtful responses. At first, I appreciated the engagement. Social media algorithms favor active conversations, so having someone consistently interacting with my content actually helped my visibility. But then M started commenting on older posts, going back months or even years through my content history, and leaving comments on posts from before we'd ever connected. It felt like they were studying my entire online history, learning everything about me through my digital footprint. They began referencing things I'd never discussed publicly. In a comment on one of my posts about content strategy, wrote, "This approach would work well for your brother's restaurant, considering it's in a tourist area." I'd never mentioned my brother or his restaurant in any public posts. I must have found that information somewhere else, maybe through my family's personal accounts or through cross-referencing information from multiple sources. I blocked M on all platforms, but they immediately created new accounts and continued following me. They'd use slightly different usernames at MarketingFan2024, at Content Strategy 2023, at Digital Marketing Pro, but the commenting patterns and writing style were always identical. Then M started showing up in my professional spaces. I spoke at a marketing conference in Austin, an event I'd promoted on my professional accounts weeks in advance. After my panel, M approached me in the crowd. "Cassidy, great presentation. I especially loved your points about algorithm changes. We should grab coffee and discuss further." I was polite but firm. "I appreciate that, but I'm here for professional networking only. Please respect my boundaries and stop creating new accounts to follow me after I've blocked you." His expression didn't change. "I'm not harassing you. I'm interested in your work. That's why I attended this conference, to learn from experts like you." But there were hundreds of marketing experts at that conference. M had specifically sought me out after I'd blocked them multiple times online. Over the next few months, M appeared at 3 more industry events I attended. Each time, they'd act surprised to see me, as if we kept running into each other by coincidence. But these conferences weren't in the same city. One was in Seattle, one in Chicago, one in Boston. Was traveling across the country to attend events I'd be at. I stopped promoting my speaking engagements publicly, but M found out about them anyway. I realized they must be monitoring my colleagues' posts, my clients' accounts, the conference organizers' announcements, piecing together my schedule from public information scattered across the internet. The comments escalated from professional interest to personal knowledge. Would reference things they couldn't possibly know from my public posts. The name of my favorite coffee shop, the color of my car, the apartment building I lived in. One comment read, "I saw you at Blue Bottle Coffee on Thursday morning. You looked stressed. I hope the cappuccino helped. You left your journal on the table, the red leather one. I kept it safe for you, but you'd already left." I'd never posted about going to that coffee shop. I'd never mentioned owning a red leather journal. And I definitely didn't leave it anywhere. It was in my apartment, in my desk drawer. That's when I realized M had been inside my apartment. I immediately called the police and filed a report. When I checked my journal, tucked inside was a note. "I found this at the coffee shop and wanted to return it. You should be more careful with personal items." But I knew the truth. It had broken into my apartment, taken my journal, and then created this elaborate story about finding it at a coffee shop to justify having it. The police investigation revealed that M had been using my publicly available information to piece together my life in frightening detail. My business address was public, which led them to my building. From there, they'd likely followed me to learn my daily routines, favorite spots, and eventually my home address. They'd been documenting my life online and offline, building a comprehensive profile that went far beyond what I'd ever shared publicly. They knew my schedule, my habits, my relationships, all gathered from a combination of my professional posts, my friends and family's less protected accounts, and direct observation. The police arrested M and discovered they had an entire cloud drive full of screenshots, photos, and documents related to me. Thousands of files, organized by date and category. Work posts, personal photos found through mutual connections, screenshots of conversations I'd had with other people in comment sections. They'd even created timelines of my daily routines and maps of my frequent locations. Aing was charged with stalking, breaking and entering, and criminal harassment. During the trial, Their lawyer tried to argue that because most of the information had been publicly available online, hadn't done anything wrong by viewing and compiling it. But the prosecution successfully argued that the systematic collection of this information, combined with the physical stalking and illegal entry into my home, demonstrated clear criminal intent. M was convicted and sentenced to 2 years in prison, followed by 5 years of supervised probation and a permanent restraining order. But the damage to my career and sense of security was already done. I had to completely rebuild my online presence. I deleted all my public social media accounts and created new professional profiles with much stricter privacy settings. I can no longer promote my speaking engagements publicly, which has limited my professional opportunities. I moved to a new apartment and now use a P.O. box for all business correspondence. The irony is that as a social media manager, my job requires visibility and engagement, the very things that made me vulnerable to M stalking. I've had to find a balance between professional necessity and personal safety, and it's changed how I do my work entirely. Here's what I learned about digital stalking that I want to share. Public information is powerful. What seems like harmless details, check-ins, photos in front of identifiable buildings, mentions of your daily routine, can be combined by someone motivated to track you. Your digital footprint is bigger than you think. It's not just what you post, it's what others post about you, what appears in background of photos, what can be cross-referenced across multiple platforms. Privacy settings matter, but they're not foolproof. Even with locked accounts, information leaks through friends, family, colleagues who have public profiles. Geotagging is dangerous. Never post your location in real time. If you want to share photos from places you frequent, post them after you've left, never while you're there. Trust your instincts about online interactions. If someone's engagement feels excessive or crosses boundaries, block immediately and document it. Monitor your digital presence regularly. Google yourself. Check what information is publicly available and lock down what you can. And finally, digital stalking is just as serious as physical stalking. The fact that someone is monitoring you online doesn't make it less threatening, especially when that digital surveillance leads to real-world encounters. Turned my professional success and online visibility into a roadmap for stalking me. They use tools meant for networking and business development to invade my privacy and ultimately my home. If you work in a field that requires online visibility, please learn from my experience. Protect your information, maintain strict boundaries, and never underestimate how much a determined person can learn about you from your digital footprint. Because in today's world, stalking doesn't require following someone down dark alleys. It just requires an internet connection and an obsession that won't quit. These 3 stories remind us that stalking comes in many forms, from misinterpreted friendliness at work, to obsessive attention at the gym, to digital surveillance that crosses into physical danger. The common threads are clear: boundary violations, escalating behavior, and the devastating impact on victims' sense of safety and autonomy. Olivia learned that professional kindness can be twisted into imagined romance by someone operating from delusion. Ethan discovered that male victims face unique challenges in being taken seriously. And Cassidy found that online visibility, necessary for her career, became a tool for someone to map every aspect of her life. If you recognize signs of stalking in your own life, please take action. Document everything. Tell people what's happening. Contact the police even if you're not sure they'll help, and never apologize for protecting yourself. And if you're someone who's ever thought stalking is flattering, romantic, or not that serious, these stories show the reality. It's a violation that strips away peace of mind, invades privacy, and can escalate to genuine danger. The most important message from these stories is this: trust your instincts, enforce your boundaries, and remember that you have the right to feel safe. No one, regardless of their feelings, intentions, or imagined connections, has the right to invade your life against your will. Thank you for listening to these difficult but important stories. Stay safe, stay aware, and remember that your safety and peace of mind are always worth protecting.